So, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Blake Ray. My day job, I'm the lending director for Wells Fargo's Wealth and Investment Management Division for all of Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia. I've got 273 wealth advisors that I support and develop lending strategy for. Then I do a bunch of other stuff. So I wanted to talk to you guys today, and I got to Richlands on Thursday night at 5:58. Rolled in. We're doing this pop-up program. I was going to help facilitate a credit class at 6, and I've literally been all over the country in the last 8 days. So there's been a lot of time on trains. There's been a lot of times on planes. There's been a lot of time in the car, which gave me a lot of time to think about what I was going to talk to you guys about. So I've got two things I want to show you before I actually get into the talk. The first is going to be a video, and I promise it's very short, but I think it's very relevant to what everybody's talked about today. So we'll go ahead and get started with the video.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen start to finish in under 3 minutes and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore. It's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. See, it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out and you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut, and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd, and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers, because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point, and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first few followers as equals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is over-glorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit, but you saw what really happened. It was the first follower that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement without the first follower. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really ineffective. The best way to make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
Talk about why I showed you that video in just a second. So I also sent Jordan a quote that somewhere on the train between DC and New York, I was scrolling on TikTok. So this is a TikTok quote that somebody else said. I'm sure they were pretty famous, but I know it from the TikTok page that I saw. And it's confidence is not walking into a room thinking you're better than everyone else. Confidence is walking into a room not worrying about comparing yourself to anyone in it. You are you, embrace it and own it. So here's where we're going to go with this. I, Blake Ray, had to learn a really hard lesson about 6 years ago. Now, I am 31, and 6 years ago, I wasn't confident, I was cocky. There's a huge difference between the two. And the lesson that I had to learn a long time ago, I was an individual producer in a role where I was working with clients who had $1 million or more. I was really good at my job. My clients trusted me, but here's the lesson that I had to learn. I couldn't do everything by myself. And I was sitting across the desk from a senior leader one time, and we were having a conversation that turned into be a heated conversation, but the most valuable conversation of my life. He looked at me because he was speaking and making his point, and I was ready to respond. He put his finger up. He said, I need you to listen to hear me, not listen to respond. Now, why was that important? Because in that moment, he said something that Craig just said. He said, Blake, you're smart. You're probably one of the best dang bankers I've ever met in my life, but you don't know what you don't know. So I'm glad you said that, Craig, because that is a very important point that is going to drive me into what this talk is really about. When I applied for a ton of jobs because I was a good banker. I mean, I was rocking. I finished 2020 as #1 in the country for what I did from Harrisonburg, Virginia, across a platform and all 50 states. So I was very good at what I did. But from that day, when Paul sat across that desk from me and told me that, a light bulb went off that said, I'm only ever going to be in this seat if I think that I'm the best. Because guess what? I don't know what I don't know. And I'm a problem solver. So I had to solve my own problem. And that problem was, how do I know what I don't know? And it had absolutely nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with everybody else around me. So it's really funny. In this room, I grew up with a lot of you. I'm going to call Jordan out. You never know when the guy that you used to play Pokemon with on his front porch is going to be building a website for you. I don't know how to build a website at all. Jordan does. You have to surround yourself with people that you know and you are confident in can get you the answer that you need to finish something. So after Paul told me, I need you to listen to hear me and don't listen to respond, I heard him loud and clear that I needed to build my network to help me be the best version of me and be the most successful version of me that will ever, come out of that. So thinking about that, thinking about the Blake from 6 years ago who thought he could rule the world and do it himself, I'll tell you what, if I were that Blake standing where I am now in this job that I'm in, I probably wouldn't work for the company that I work for now because I have to rely on so many people to help me move a needle and move a target. And a lot of times what I am doing has nothing to do with how much I know about lending, how smart I am, how complex a loan product may be for the guy who's worth $1 billion and we're trying to, throw together a $380 million project. I can't do that by myself. I've got to pull in so many different people to function and make that deal work. And a lot of that is facilitation and influence. So, what I want you guys to hear me say today is that in order to be confident, you have to sell yourself to build your network and bring people in. Because I don't need two of me. Two of me becomes extremely ineffective because we're never going to move anywhere, right? I know my skill set. I know what I can do. I know I'm not the guy who can build a website, but guess what? I know who to call. I know I'm not the guy who, you know, works on blockchain technology every day. But if I want to work on a Bitcoin project, who's the first person I'm going to call? I'm going to call the guy that I just heard give a very impressive speech. I'm not an engineer by any means. In fact, I'm looking for an engineer to come onto the IDA board because I know that I'm a doer, but engineers are people who think with a very specific processed thought, right? So my job in order to be successful for the rest of my life is to keep my network tight and keep my network full of people who add value to what I'm trying to get accomplished. And so when you look at the first part of this quote, confidence isn't walking into a room thinking that you're better than anyone else. Confidence is walking into a room not worrying about comparing yourself to anyone in it. And here's why. I don't want to be like any of the rest of you. In fact, I want to embrace your differences because you're going to get something from me. I'm going to get something from you. And all of a sudden, going back to the video, we have a movement. And that movement only can happen with differing opinions, differing thoughts, differing skill sets. Because you can be the person, Andrea, who has an idea to start a nonprofit to help her community, but she couldn't have done it by herself. She had to do it with everybody else who could add value to her vision and she could delegate things to them, take it, move it forward, and Ramp Up's a year old. And look at what Ramp Up Richlands has accomplished for this community in the last 12 months. And it's just getting started. And the goal is to bring more people into the vision who can help move it forward. Now, here's the other thing. It's not all positive, right? There's going to be some people that you don't get along with, you don't know how to work with, your personalities clash. They don't have to be on your team. You get to choose who's on your team to help you move forward. You get to choose who you associate yourself with and who you want in your corner to build your life or your empire or whatever you're trying to do, right? You got to move it forward. And if there's somebody on your team that's holding you back, either separate yourself from them or kick them off your team and replace them with somebody who's going to help you move forward. So I'm going to be very brief. I don't want to talk a whole lot. We can talk about any questions that you guys have. I'll be happy to answer about, career or business or starting a movement, any of that stuff. But everything that I've ever done in my life since 2014, when I had that conversation, it has never been from then on, here's the answer, here's the fix. You will very rarely hear that come out of my mouth anymore. I'll do it occasionally when I feel like I need to. But my process and approach changed because I don't know everything in the world. It changed from me saying, hey, I can do this and here's how we're going to do it, to me asking a ton of questions to help me make the right decision based on the network of people that I've surrounded myself with. So to truly be a confident person has absolutely nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with the people who are in your life motivating you, pushing you forward, providing you access to resources, and helping you make the hard decisions that, guess what, we all have to make them. But there's nobody in this room who's ever had to make a hard decision by themselves. So build your team, build your network, surround yourself with people who are going to help you move forward. Because when that happens, you have small groups moving forward. Then all of a sudden it goes to scale and you have communities moving forward. When you have communities moving forward, it goes even larger. Then you have society moving forward. So think about that. Who do you want in your corner? How can you be more confident? And it's by the people that you put on your team. So,
2 questions.
yes.
Did you dance like that with your team? you don't have to incriminate yourself. Second question, that's an accomplishment being top in the US. What made you different than the person on the bottom of the list?
So that's a really good question. So going back to the conversation that I had about, you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. I wasn't the number one banker because of me. I was the number one banker because I was working with a team of 11 people who helped me grow my business effectively and have access to all the resources I needed, had access to all of the clientele that I needed to help succeed. It had everything to do with all of the financial advisors that I worked with, all of the mortgage partners that I worked with, all of the business banking partners that I worked with. I was the center of that unit. And yes, all of these people were helping me and I was helping them. So the whole team grew. Now, that's why I was successful. It had absolutely nothing to do with me. Sure, I sat in a room for 8 hours a day because it was COVID and the world shut down, and I had a whole lot of time to do some interlooking and find some perspective and make a lot of phone calls and do a lot of prospecting to get new clients to come in. But where's my phone? There's another thing that I'm glad you asked that because I got a text message yesterday from a financial advisor who's in Charlottesville who we were talking through some changes that were happening and everybody's perspective is different. So he sends me a text message yesterday and it was based on the conversation that he and I had. And he was scrolling on Facebook and you know how a meme or something will pop up and just remind you of something. He sends me this text message. He said, "Hey man, this reminded me of our conversation yesterday and I just want to thank you for that." And the quote was, "Being positive isn't pretending that everything is good, it's seeing the good in everything." And so in that moment, 2020, March, everything shut down. I could have done what everybody else in the world did and started panicking. The world's ending. I can't do anything. I did more in 2020 than I've ever done in my entire life. So I knew that I could either do what everybody else was doing and be stagnant, or I could find resolve and push forward. So that year, not only was that the year that I was super successful as a banker, 3 months after March, I opened Coal Town here. I had 2 house flips. I had all of these projects going, and I was able to be successful because I couldn't be everywhere else, right? I was still living in Harrisonburg. There was stuff happening here. I had a dedicated job that I had to do there. And some of the other stuff that I was working on was nowhere, like we're talking miles. But the people that I had with me moving that forward and helping me make those decisions and get stuff done, that's how I was successful. So, any other questions? Anybody but Craig?
So, is there a time where you had to remove someone?
Yes, there is a time. And so there's a couple times actually. So, going back to what I said around, I don't need another me in the room because I am me. I need somebody who's going to, think differently than I am. There was a time that I was on a team and I was the second of the two A-type personalities. And that first A-type personality had been there for a very long time. And again, this was before I learned the lesson of, hey, I need to not be cocky and I need to be confident because I can't do everything. My A-type personality lost to that person's A-type personality because we were working on a project and we failed. By the way, failure is not fatal. Failure is actually a really good thing. We failed at that project and nothing happened. We both got extremely embarrassed and I had to walk away and I had to say, this is not where I am good at spending my time. And this is not where I'm effective. You were effective and I got in the way of you. And I apologize because at the end of the day, I hindered the growth and I was the reason that project failed. And so I had to look long and hard. Another good piece of advice that I got and really helped me go through this process was you have to step back, you have to pause, and you have to ask yourself one very important question. What am I doing or what am I not doing to either have a positive or negative impact on the outcome of this situation? And so when I was working on that project, I took a step back and I realized that everything that I was doing was impacting that specific project negatively, and it could not move forward if I was still associated with it. So, and it's again, it's not always kick somebody off your team. Sometimes you have to kick your own self off, right? So, any other question?
What's your why? Why do you do all your side projects? Why do you want to achieve so much?
Oh man,
Yeah, you asked.
we might be here for a little while. I've had this conversation a couple times this week, and it's kind of funny that it keeps coming up. You know, I have a complex, and sometimes it is not to my. Sometimes it's to my detriment, and it's not to my growth or whatever. And that is, I want to make sure that everything I do has meaning, and everything I do helps someone else. And it might be because I'm a very single dude and I just have all kinds of time on my hands. So I um, like wrap myself up in all this stuff. But the why is, and especially why I've been spending a lot of time in Richlands, because I could be pretty much anywhere else in the world, right? I mean, I work 3 days in DC, but I choose to be here part of that time. I think the best part is I care about the people in this community and I care about the people who I have brought onto my team. So whether it be my good friend Craig in Wisconsin, who Craig and I have a weekly standing catch up call. It's 8:30 for me. It's like whatever the time difference, so 7:30 or 6:30 for him. So we call each other every Thursday and we talk through what our week has looked like and what we need to change to move our week forward for the next week to either course correct or replicate processes that work. And that is the best phone call that I have all week. We talk for 45 minutes and we talk about what we're doing that may work in different fields. And he's in a completely different field than me, right? Similar but different. And so we bounce ideas off of each other and we criticize each other. So I want to make sure that he is just as successful as I am, because I am a reflection and my success is a reflection of everybody that I associate myself with. There's an old adage and an old saying that you're only as good as the people that you let in your corner and the people that you surround yourself with. So if you are going to surround yourself with felons, more than likely, statistically speaking, you're probably going to see prison at one point or another. Or if you surround yourself with, if you are the fifth person and five of those people are millionaires, you're going to be the sixth millionaire because you're learning from them. And that's how your network grows. I want to make sure that the people in my network are supported by me in the best way possible. And that is where, to my detriment sometimes, I focus a lot of energy on seeing the success in others, because that is a direct impact on me and how I move forward. Again, it hasn't always been that way, because I used to be cocky, but now I'm confident. So thank you guys for letting me speak today. I'm so happy to be here. And thank you guys for listening online.